Hi guys, Matt Bean here at the Royal Montreal Curling Club again, and in this video I just want to discuss a little bit about how to line up takeouts. So I'm going to talk about how to line up the double takeout, the triple takeout, and looking at whether or not you want to stick around or maybe roll out on each of those. And we're also going to be looking at flat doubles and which turn that you want to take in order to make the double. So let's get started. Okay, so in a practice, this is a good way to wrap your mind around how to line up a takeout. And this is especially important for new curlers and really understanding how the physics works. So what you can do in a practice is take your brooms and let's say we want to take out these two red stones. There are two different ways to look at it. One way to look at it is to keep your shooter around. Another way is to look at it to remove all the stones. So looking at it this way to keep your shooter around, something you can do during practice, of course this is not legal during gameplay, is to set up your brooms here. And so I would take, in order to keep my shooter around, I will take my brush and I'll put it on the outer edge of the final stone up to the inside edge of the target stone. And then I'll make a 90-degree angle with another brush. Then I can take my shooter and move it right into that pocket until it's touching both brooms just barely. And then right there we can see where we need to hit this stone in order to remove that one and then jam on this one. So now we can take a look at this and see, all right, how much of this stone do we need to hit? And it's just probably about an 1/8 to a 1/16, so not much. Now if we move this one higher, you see, now we move it over until we're touching. Now we go 90-degree angle all the way up to this stone. Pretty good 90-degree angle. And now we're here at about an 1/8. Okay, moving it up further. Once again, moving it over. This is just a good drill to do to demonstrate to new curlers where the stone needs to be, or how much of this stone, the object stone, the first stone that you need to hit in order to jam on the back stone. So then we're about, oops, I need to be at a 90-degree angle here. And I'm just eyeballing it, of course. Fit it right into that pocket. And now we're getting close to a half of a stone. And that brings up another point that we need to think about. And that is, especially as new curlers, is when we hear, all right, we need to hit half a stone, or we need to hit 1/4 of a stone, 3/4 of a stone. What does that mean? Well, that just means how much of your thrown stone is covering the object stone. So if we think of this stone as being split in half, well then the edge of this stone would need to hit the center, the half of the object stone. So it'd be hitting half the stone. So at about right there, for example. So the edge of this thrown stone just splits this stone in half. So that'd be hitting it in half. 3/4, you'd be hitting this edge of the stone, be hitting 3/4 of this stone. And then 1/4 of a stone, the edge of this stone is covering 1/4 of this stone, and so forth, 1/8 of a stone, and so forth. So when you're thinking about making these doubles as a skip, you can think about it, lining it up. You can line these brooms up in your head. When you're in the hack, just line it up in your head. Right angle, this one comes down. So I'm visualizing in my head this scenario, and I'm thinking, okay, we need to hit 1/4 of the stone. So I'll tell them we need to hit about 1/4, and then you can talk about high side, low side, of course, depending on the turn. That will be in another video. Possibly I'll make one and I'll put a link to that video in the description below. But that's about it. So when I'm talking about 1/4, we need to hit about 1/4 of that one to jam on this stone. Now, if we wanted to remove all of the stones and not jam, we'll need to move this broom to the center of this stone. And then when we have this angle, it's gonna move it over a little bit. So we need to hit a little bit more of this stone. And then it's gonna come across the top more and roll out. So that's one way to look at, especially in practice, looking at how to line up your shots for the doubles. And let's talk a little bit about making triples now. Okay, so we've mastered the double takeout now. So we want to look at how do we set up a triple, for example, just for fun. The same concepts apply as the doubles. We'll start at the back stone here and then bisect the center stone right through the middle. You can see, I can visualize that it ends up here. I'll start from this point. I'll bisect the object stone that we're hitting, the first stone that we're hitting, straight through there. I can see that I need to hit the stone right here. I'll move this stone there till it hits there. And I can see that it's a thick half that I need to hit of this stone. So it looks like what's going to happen is this stone will come back here, boom, roll out there. This one will come back, hit that one, roll out there. That one rolls out into the back. So it's just thinking about, I want to start with this edge, bisect, bisect. Edge, bisect. Then from that point on the other end, bisect. And then I can see where I need to hit this one. And we'll just try it. This is kind of difficult to do. It's just standing here, but we'll see if it works. And so pretty close, maybe with a little more weight, with a firm weight or peel weight from the hack, we would have gotten this one out. But you can see that it was pretty close to our calculations. So that's the triple takeout. Now we want to talk about doubles where they're pretty flat. So let's say that we have a couple stones that are pretty flat. What is the best turn to use in order to make this double? Now when they're absolutely flat like this, it is a very difficult shot to make. So one thing we need to think about is the physics of the stone and the turn coming down. Now you're going to get a lot more action on this. If, for example, you're throwing a clockwise rotation, you'll get more spring, but also the stone tends to go down more quickly. Whereas if you were to throw counterclockwise rotation, because with the counterclockwise rotation, it's going to stay more level. Now you'll have to throw big heat, of course, but with that counterclockwise rotation, once it hits this stone, it's going to spring, it's going to slow down the momentum, but it's going to keep it more flat in order to come across. And so you can just think with the with the clockwise rotation, coming in towards the button, you're going to get more spring off that stone. Let me just move this over here. You'll get more spring, and it'll go further, but it's also going to come down more quickly. So closer the distance, I would definitely recommend the clockwise rotation. You'll get more bounce. But as this distance increases, you'll still need a little bit of this. You'll need this stone to be a little bit in front of this stone, because as you go further away, it doesn't matter which turn you use. But if you're getting further away and you just have a little bit, this one's a little bit in front of this stone, it's better to use the counterclockwise rotation, because with the counterclockwise rotation, it's going to stay more level. I hope that helps you when you're thinking about which turn you want to take. And the same, just flip it for this side of the house, and hopefully you'll start making a few more of those takeouts. Okay, so I hope you found these concepts useful and you can integrate this into your game. And if you're a new curler especially, maybe you were having a tough time understanding some of the angles and why the skip was calling certain angles. Maybe you're hearing terminology like hit it a quarter, a half, or 3/4, and you didn't quite understand what that meant. And some of those flat doubles, hopefully you have a better understanding of if you should use the in turn or out turn. Check out some of my other videos, and good curling.